House Across the Street, written by DIAZ. Hello, my name is Aaron. I am a 13-year-old kid who lives in a house of 4 people. 2 brothers, me, and my father. Of course, my mother isn't in the picture. She left when I was younger, and my father hardly even talks about her nor mentions her. Unlike most parents, my father has always been very good to us. Ever since my mother left, things never really got worse. They only changed. Most families suffer, whether it's the kids or one of the parents not having the other around. My mother and father were always good to each other. I guess, like they say, good things don't last forever. No one is ever perfect in this world, that's for sure. The house across the street. It has always been there since the day we moved here. Not too many people have lived there. The only ones that ever did were an elderly couple. The only thing I can remember from them was that they stayed there for a good couple of years. It was out of nowhere, really. They were a really nice couple, too. In fact, they were one of the very first people to ever greet us when we moved here many years ago. I will always miss them and never forget them. It happened too quickly. One day when I came home from school, there were some moving vans and their car was driving away. I couldn't go to them in time, so I went to one of the guys from the moving van. I asked him what was going on. At the time, he told me that they found a better house. He didn't say anything after that. The only thing I understood was that they were leaving and were not coming back. I remember just sitting at the porch waiting until all the movers left. Fast forward to now, and no one has moved into that house ever since. The for sale sign can barely hold up, and the yard grass is so tall that it looks like cornfield plants. The reason why no one has moved in is because on how the way it looks. At least try and maintain the place. Each night I always find myself staring across the street. The house is gray with a dark burgundy door. It almost looks like an abandoned house. One day after school, while riding my bike around 5 p.m., I put my bike in the garage and went into the living room to watch TV. In most cases around that time, kids are still playing outside. At 7 is when everyone leaves and the streets are empty. My favorite TV show ended and I went to the front yard to get some fresh air. I sat down on the couch my mother bought way back when we moved here. Somehow, I managed to look at one of the windows. It was the only window I was able to look through since all the other ones were boarded up. The area wasn't all too bad. Sometimes you would get unwanted attention or out-of-town people that would come in and destroy the property. I never understood why they did that. Did they have a lot of time on their hands, probably? Suddenly, out of nowhere, I seen something move. I looked at the window there. Calm as day, a shadow figure walked by. I rubbed my eyes to see if I was seeing things that usually works in the movies, although I wasn't in one. I stayed there to see if it would pass again. It didn't show itself. That night I slept earlier than I usually do. I had a dream that I had actually broken into the house to see what was going on. It was very dark, but barely enough light to see. It is super empty. The furniture was very old with spider webs on each and every one of them. It's a good thing I'm not afraid of spiders at all. I find them interesting myself. I looked through all the rooms, the kitchen, living room, and a bathroom. There was a small back room at the very back with a very low lit light on top of it like a scary movie. I walked to it very slowly. opened it, and saw a shadow figure kneeling down. It stands up, and it's at least 7 feet tall. The dream ends, and I wake up. The next day at school, I couldn't focus. I had to go in that house. As soon as the bell rang, I headed to the house as quickly as I could, ate really fast, and went to the back door. Of course, I wasn't going to let anyone know about it. That would destroy the whole thing. I had a flashlight and a bottle of water in case I got thirsty. Besides, my house was across the street. I went through the back, but to get there, I had to jump over an old wooden fence that's been there for years with splinters everywhere. I grabbed a piece of paper and rubbed the top edges so I can climb over without getting my hand spiked. Spike is a term we use here. It could mean from a poke, punch, or a stab even. I hopped over, and the backyard was full of weeds and spider webs. All the windows are boarded up tight shut with nails hammered on there so no one was able to get in or out. The door looked really old and rusted. My first thought was, it is breakable, so I attempted to hit it. Knowing the kind of luck I have, I could not open it. I looked around for another way in. There was a basement door on one of the sides of the house. I went to it, and luckily for me, the lock was broken because of how rusted it was. I opened it and went in very slowly without making a sound. I closed the door behind me, and the smell was so terrible that it almost made me vomit right there and then. I reached out for my flashlight, turned it on, and began to walk. I went to the kitchen. There wasn't much to see. Suddenly, I remembered about the room that was in the very back from the dream I had last night. It looked exactly how I seen it with a dim light. Without even thinking about it, I reached for the handle. Knowing what could possibly happen, I was ready for it. I opened the door, but it was an empty room. I was confused to why there wasn't anything there. I closed the door. As soon as I was making my way back to the living room, fast footsteps came rushing from behind me. There was no time to think. I quickly ran all the way back and out the basement door, jumped over the fence, and ran straight into the house. I never ran that fast in my entire life, but I'm glad I did.